All right. Today we will be doing a Magret de Canard with Salardaise potatoes. So the ingredient is a Magaret, which is right there, potatoes, white onions, garlic, salt with herbs, and parsley and ground pepper. The first task is to pepper and salt the Magret de Canard, and then do cuts across the Magret at 90 degrees, right up to the meat, through the fat. And this is the technique that is very important, because what you want to have is when the Magret is cooking, that this fat will get roasted, but also through the meat. So the first technique is to get the Magret and get it to cook in a hot plate. So the plate is on the oven, on the stove top, and it's ready to receive the Magret. The Magret is going to release a lot of fat, and you need to take that fat away. So the technique is to cook the Magret on the fat side until it's pretty well all cooked up. It will take about 10 minutes, and we will be removing the fat and getting the fat over the meat, and we'll turn it only once. That's the main thing. Turn the Magret only once and finish cooking it for about 4 to 5 minutes. You don't want it to be overcooked, and you want the Magret not to release all its juice. It's got to stay well cooked. So we will be starting, and I will show the technique as we move forward. So the Magret is cooking, and as you can notice, there's a lot of fat. So the fat needs to be removed. So we will be tilting the casserole and then removing that fat and putting it aside. And as you can notice, we are also recovering that fat. We're putting in a little pot, and we are keeping it for future recipe. So we've been cooking this for a good 6-7 minutes now, and we have removed already 3 times the fat. And before we remove it, we take a bit of the hot fat and we drop it over the meat. So you see it starts cooking on the top, but very slightly, because of the hot grease from the hot fat from the duck. And when we're removing that, we're simply putting it in there, let it cool off, and then we will recover it for future recipes. And I usually keep those little pots in the freezers. Those are great to be used for soup days and so forth, and we will be using that fat for our potatoes, make them marvelously good. So we have turned it, and we'll let it cook for another good 5 minutes. Notice how well roasted the fat is now, and we have recovered a significant amount of fat. The brown the brown juice at the bottom are nice meat reductions, which is very, very good. So the meat's been cooking on this side for at least 7 or 8 minutes. You notice it is still grilling underneath. We will just turn it so that the folks can see what we're looking for. And it is, we're looking for a piece of meat, and that may take you, depending on the size of it, a good 10 minutes to cook it well all around. What you want a nice roasted color pretty well everywhere all around. To achieve that, you can use the technique of the hot grease that will accumulate at the bottom of it. So you tilt the casserole and you maintain it like so, and then I'll show you what you do. You turn up the heat, and then you really boil that grease, and you take a spoon and you just get it right over the meat. So we'll do that for maybe a minute or two, and we'll see the end result. So that latest technique, which is tilting and using a spoon to recover the fat, and then soaking it over the piece of meat as pretty well roasted all around. So we've been, and then on the other side, what you have is a perfectly grilled meat side, grease side, the skin side that you keep. So now we just don't want any of the juice. You see how well rounded this piece of meat is. You have not had a release of juice on it, so she's still inside pretty well. I would say medium to rare, okay. And that's what you want. So we'll take it and we'll let it rest inside a small soup ball. We'll cover it with aluminum foil and let it sit there for at least 15 minutes. We'll be moving now to the potatoes. We're simply going to put the onions inside the plate, and then the potatoes, a bit of the garlic, and then we'll roast all this together, and we'll finish with the parsley. Do not throw the parsley at the beginning. So from a technique perspective, normally you will have grilled the onions in the fat, but because it's potatoes and all this is going to cook pretty well right through, you want them really nice and roasty. You just soak everything in fat, including the onions, the bits of garlics, and you will see at the end everything's going to be right up nice and roasty. So that's going to take another at least 10-15 minutes, and before we can finish the recipe. At the end we will add fresh garlic, so that you have in there garlic that will be roasting, but at the end you want the garlic to stay a little fresh, so it's fairly intense in taste, and we will finish with fresh parsley. So we are pretty well halfway through the cooking. We turn the potatoes in the pan a few times, and you can see that we have the heat about half, and it's grilling. You want this to grill very nicely, roast very nicely. We'll turn it 3 or 4 more times, and making sure that the potatoes are pretty well al dente. You don't want them to be mushy. They have to be roasted, but not overcooked. And then as you can see, the onions are cooking at the same time. I cheat a bit, I put a bit of the parsley in it so that we can have this increased taste all along. And of course the house is filled with a lot of flavor. So you can see that on the right hand side the meat has released jus, which is what we're looking for. And then we slice the Magret, and you can see that it's slightly, it's almost feel like it's medium rare at this point, and you don't want to overcook it. Okay, the meat is nice and juicy. It's got nice colors. If people want it a little bit more cooked, you just finish it in the plate, in the pan. What you will have now is an extremely tender piece of Magret de Canard. So our potatoes has been cooking now for at least 20 minutes. We turn them 4 or 5 times. Still going to finish it so that they're nice and roasted. And if you notice, the onion have grilled perfectly. So all this flavors now is inside the potato. We remove a bit of the fat so that it's just roast nicely in the pan. We're getting ready to finish this recipe. C'est parti. So we have finished the entire cooking. Now here's the final result. Of course on the left you have the Magret de Canard, but I mount a plate, and guess what? It's not the dinner, it's a breakfast. It will be pretty intense in flavors. You have of course the nice little oranges,